The Chargers pulled off the upset in Cincinnati. Justin Herbert went off. The Chargers turned Joe Burrow over 4 times, sacked him 6 times in this game, and the Chargers end up beating the Bengals 41-22 in a game where the Bengals had a furious comeback, but the Chargers fought through adversity in the fourth quarter and ended up taking a huge win in the AFC.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Drogemeyer, and we are two writers who've been covering the Chargers for over 5 seasons. Started doing our own Facebook Live show, Charger Domination Live. Now this is our 4th season, doing as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. All right, guys, what is up? What a win for the Chargers. I mean, let's start there because it was just a crazy win that the Chargers weren't expected to win going into it. Got off to a crazy hot start, and then still almost collapsed in this game, but fought through it, ended up getting a huge pivotal game-changing play with a scoop and score touchdown by Tavon Campbell. But thank you guys for making us your first listen on a Victory Monday. We very much appreciate it, and make sure to check out the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and follow wherever you get your podcast from. But David, what a win, 41-22. The Chargers move to 7-5 on the season. They bring the Bengals down to 7-5, which actually gives the Chargers the tiebreaker there, which is why this was such an important game, right? All those tiebreakers in the AFC are so important, especially with such a cluster in the AFC so far. But the Chargers get a giant win that they needed, right? Justin Herbert was electric in this one. The Chargers found the explosive plays on the offense that were been missing for a while now, right? 30, 40-plus yard passes just in the first half, and the Chargers take a 24-0 lead. Obviously, things get hairy later on, but they did enough in this game, and it started with the Chargers getting off to a fast start like you wanted them to do, right? On the back of those explosive plays, finishing drives with touchdowns, and the defense forcing turnovers.
This game had it all, and I know they are kicking themselves for not flexing this game after what it turned out to look like, and the snooze fest that we saw on Sunday Night Football between the Broncos and
Truly.
the Chiefs. But yeah, big plays, physical hits on defense, turnovers on both sides. Just a very thrilling game, a big lead for the Chargers. Then they almost cough it up. They come within 2 points of coughing up a massive lead, but they play their best football when it counts in the fourth quarter to score 17 unanswered points and secure a absolutely monumentally massive win in the month of December. That's the way you want to kick off the month of December, Daniel, when the games are very, very important. They pick up a huge win over the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably the Chargers' best offensive performance going up against a top 10 scoring defense, right? We'd seen them really struggle with good defenses as recently as last week against the Denver Broncos. But in this game, the offense was putting up fireworks from the beginning, and the defense made enough plays the entire game. Joey Bosa leaves this game with a head injury, but somehow the Chargers defense still rallies to make big physical tackles throughout the game. They made giant plays, stopped that 2-point conversion you were talking about on a nice run stuff there. And the Chargers did what they hadn't done in the past 4 games, which is force turnovers. 2 in the past 4 games going into this one. In this game alone, they forced 4 turnovers. One was a little lucky, but getting to Joe Burrow for a sack, strip, fumble, right? You get another fumble from Joe Mixon. Tavon Campbell takes it 61 yards for a touchdown, totally swinging the game and changing the momentum and complexion of the entire game. And the Chargers also get home on Joe Burrow because that was the biggest thing. Can the Chargers get pressure? Not only did they get pressure, but they did it without their best pass rusher in Joey Bosa. They still find a way to get Joe Burrow to the ground 6 times, which makes everybody look better.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to cover as long. And I think one of the stats that I found from PFF is that Joe Burrow had a season-low 2.60 seconds to throw the football in this game. It's because the Chargers were all over them, and they sent a variety of different blitzes. They sent a middle linebacker blitz. They send a strong safety blitz. They send Nazir Adderley and Derwin James on the blitz at the same time.
Double safety blitz.
Yeah, double safety blitz. They got really creative in this one, and it all seemed to work. When Joey Bosa, their best pressure machine, went out and did not return to this game, they had to really reach into that bag of tricks and really unveil some things that they hadn't shown up to this point or had shown in just limited capacity. And it all worked, and it worked extremely, extremely well.
It did. And I mean, obviously, as we're talking about it right now, it seems like this was a very rosy game for the Chargers, but it didn't feel like that for a lot of it. They had a lot to overcome in this game. I mean, there was definitely a point of this where I was like, how am I supposed to talk about this on tomorrow's show? Like,
Yes.
what am I supposed to say? The Chargers are about to blow a 24-point lead. The Bengals have never come
Oh,
back
man.
from a 24-point deficit. Like, everything was trending in the wrong direction. The Chargers defense is actually what turned this game around, and they absolutely beat up Joe Burrow in this game. And credit to him, he took some shots. Him and Justin
Oh,
Herbert
yeah.
did, but the Chargers were getting home frequently, derailed drives late in the game with the pressure, right? Causing a turnover on downs, causing punts in the second half. And it was mostly because of that pass rush. Drew Tranquil getting in the action. Derwin James in on the action. Uchenna Nwosu multiple sacks for the first time in
Chris
his
Rumph gets
career.
his first sack. Justin Jones gets a sack.
Yeah, Justin Jones gets his first sack of the season. Chris Rumph his first sack of his career, So like that
Yeah.
was really cool. Young guys had to step up, and what they did to Joe Mixon, 2.8 yards per carry, only 51 yards on the day. That was the biggest thing, David. We didn't know how they were going to come and attack Joe Mixon. He had a couple of moments, right? A big, 10-yard run here, a 7-yard touchdown here, but the Chargers run defense looked good again. And that is a crazy thing because it's like when you're kryptonite, you're getting better at, obviously it's going to help out the rest of your team because that was an obvious weakness. It's the obvious game plan. And when you can play the run like that and get off to a good start and get that giant lead, it just makes everything so much easier.
Well, and I think one thing I saw right away in this game, Daniel, is that the Chargers defense was exponentially more physical in this game.
100%.
They
Better effort,
were
too.
100%. I mean, it was very, very clear to me that the defensive line was getting pushed. They cared about this. Like they were disrespected last week when they gave up that many rushing yards to the Broncos, and they were going up in against the Joe Mixon and the Cincinnati Bengals, one of the better running backs in the league, and they took it personally. And it showed out there. They played very physical, and I loved it. That's what I called for. I wanted to see that physicality in the run game. They showed it. And obviously, when you get out to a massive lead, a 24-0 lead, it gets really, really difficult to stay committed to the run game because you just can't do that. You got to catch up and get points. So, I mean, coupling a very physical effort from the defense and a overpowering effort from the offense, that's basically the perfect recipe against a very good running game and a very good runner.
Yeah, he was like the hottest running back in the league going into this one, right? 165 yards in the game just before that. And you look at the numbers, just the raw numbers, not taking into account the Chargers have been much better against the run lately, but also still missing Linval Joseph, who wasn't able to return off of the COVID list. So they weren't even fully healthy. But Justin Jones, he left the game. So that will be something that has to be monitored because he has been a big part of that Chargers run defense being a lot better. But the young guys stepping up, Chris Rumph stepping up, the linebackers, corners, Chris Harris Jr. gets an interception in the end zone that potentially cuts this game to an 8-point game at one point, right? So big guys making big plays, bouncing back from tough plays. I mean, the Chargers defense just had a lot of grit in Sunday's game against the Bengals. And the Chargers offense, I mean, at its peak in this game was looking better than we've ever even seen it potentially, with how explosive they were and them getting into the end zone. Big plays from Mike Williams, big plays from Jalen Guyton, unsung hero.
Exciting
for this
football.
game. Really exciting football. So after this, we'll talk about that explosive start. Talk about the Chargers hitting 340-plus yard passes just in the first half alone. Big Mike Williams going up and making big-time catches, and Jalen Guyton fighting for a football through defensive pass interference to get into the end zone for a touchdown. Justin Herbert let the cannon go on Sunday early. So we're going to get into that and how the Chargers started letting the Bengals kind of creep back into things going into halftime. But first, I need to tell you guys about DirecTV Stream. It's something that I use every day. Does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows, you're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friends log in for the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you guys about a simple way to get all of that entertainment that you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites all together like never before, so you can catch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes, no need to buy a device ever again, and the best part, there's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package. All right, David. Well, a recap I don't mind getting into. I guess I'll start by saying that, right? Because
Exactly.
this is one of those games where, like, it felt like it was going to be like, okay, well, we can't even do 2 shows on this because, like, nobody's going to want to hear about that terrible game, right, for 2 days in a row. And I appreciate you guys always, coming through for us. Even after the Chargers' toughest losses of the season, we've still had a great audience.
Thank you, guys.
You guys are the best for that, and you're real ones, because it's tough to listen to shows and stuff like that.
It's
after
tough
the
to do shows like that.
Yes, I know. I mean, David have many times. How are we going to talk about this tonight? What do you even say to people after you blow a 24-point lead? But they didn't, and that was a huge part of this game, was the Chargers fighting through adversity. And we've seen moments of that, right, where they seem like they're going to do something the old Chargers would do, totally melt down. They fight back, they take their opponent's best punch, and they finish out strong. And that was what happened again in this one. But the Chargers did what they had to do, getting out to a quick start, David. And when I say quick, I mean doesn't get much quicker than 24-0, right? And they started early, first drive, just like you wanted it, right? 9 plays, 55 yards. You go down to get a touchdown. Dustin Hopkins misses the PAT, but that's 6-0 right there. Herbert to Keenan Allen with no throwing window. That's what it says in my notes for a 4-yard touchdown. After Mike Williams gets a 41-yard gain on a pass, Andre Roberts gets a 48-yard return to start the game. Like, special teams,
Just beautiful.
big play, ridiculous Justin Herbert throw. You got a little bit of everything on that first drive, but they saw Mike Williams single coverage, let it rip. They were just determined to get a big play in this one. And they went for some more, in the second half, didn't have enough time. Herbert took a couple sacks. It's all part of the game. But in this one, they connected. Mike Williams gets that big play, 41 yards on the first drive. And as soon as that happens, they're like, okay, we're seeing the Chargers do some things that we wanted to see them do. They're going deep. And then Herbert, I mean, it was basically triple coverage that Keenan Allen was in. I mean, a Bermuda triangle of defenders with no window, fires it in there, and then the defense responds on top of that. And, like, that's the thing. When both sides of the ball are clicking, that's when this team can get really dangerous, because the Bengals end up fumbling, right, and Chetan Nwosu gets home on the sack. Joe Burrow and the Chargers recover, and they turn that into a field goal to make it 9-0. But things couldn't have started off any better for the Chargers.
It was a perfect storm of everything that you wanted to see to start that game. I am happy that the Chargers got the ball there too. I mean, even if they won the toss, I would have preferred that them get the football to start the game, because that's how important it was to get off to a good start in this game. And they did that. And they got contributions from everybody. The special teams gets them started with the big return. The offense gets them going with the big shot plays down the field. And not to mention, that play to Keenan Allen for the touchdown was them going for it on fourth down as well. I mean, they refused to end that drive without getting a touchdown, and they did that. And that throw in between 3 defenders was absolutely insane. It seemed like Justin Herbert threw that ball like 100 miles an hour through those 3 defenders. So I just could not believe it. And hey, Keenan Allen said there's no excuse for not catching the football, right? I mean, he had that legendary clip. I can't really say exactly what he says because, he uses a few choice, colorful words. But if you haven't seen it, yeah, exactly. Go check it out. And I think it's on Fernando Ramirez's Twitter account. Definitely a good follow there. But that's a great video. And then you get the defense, you get to the turnover. It's just complimentary football at its finest. Special teams getting it started, offense scoring touchdowns, and defense giving the ball right back to the offense. Everything that you want to see.
Yeah, and I mean, the only thing you were missing was a little bit of luck, right? And that's something the Chargers haven't had a lot of this season, a lot of bad bounces, a lot of tough breaks, to be sure, but they got one on the next drive because the Bengals trying to come back, maybe pressing things a little bit, but wouldn't have mattered on the next drive because Jamar Chase had Michael Davis beat for what looked like it would be about a 70-yard touchdown, right? Doesn't end up that way because Jamar Chase bobbles it. Somehow Michael Davis is able to come away with it with a one-handed interception, right? Which was super weird. But
Christmas came early.
Yeah, I mean, the Chargers definitely got lucky on that one. Obviously, it's a concern that Michael Davis is getting beat deep, but Jamar Chase has obviously done that to a lot of dudes. He stays with the play. He gets the interception. The Chargers go capitalize on it, and that's another big thing for them is capitalizing. First play of that drive after you force that turnover, you go deep again. This time it's Mike Williams again.
That's exactly what you want to see.
47-yard catch by Mike Williams, and then they find Keenan Allen wide open for a 7-yard touchdown, a little RPO. He gets wide open. J.C. Bates comes down to try to stop the run. He finds himself in the back of the end zone with the easiest touchdown catch of his career, right? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, going back to what you said, like, you can't drop any passes if you're Keenan Allen. If you're saying, hey, go
Yeah.
turn up the jugs machine and start catching fastballs if you can't catch fastballs.
Right.
And that one, it was just a normal throw. But that other one, I mean, you have to catch that there. But the Chargers go up 16-0. They play it safe. They go for the one there. They're not trying to get the point back yet. And the defense comes through again. They go 3 plays at -6 yards and a punt, the Bengals do on that next drive. And the Chargers take advantage of a Cincinnati penalty, which Chargers weren't doing a ton of in this game, which was great to see. The two teams trade a couple of punts, but the Chargers get things back together. Oops, sorry, on their 5th try. And knocking my mouse over. I was so excited about the Chargers getting off to this hot start. I mean, it gets worse after this, but this was a good touchdown because the Chargers go deep again, right? This time it's Jalen Guyton in a play where we don't really see Jalen Guyton make, right? He was Justin Herbert rolling out to the right. He throws it all the way back across his body to Jalen Guyton for a 44-yard touchdown in which Jesse Bates had a defensive pass interference, right? Jalen Guyton makes a nice physical catch, comes back to get the ball, scores the touchdown that ends up putting the Chargers up 22-6. And then we got to see a little Justin Herbert special, David. The Chargers run a double reverse like the Philly special. Keenan Allen ends up throwing a touchdown or a 2-point conversion to Justin Herbert, who emphatically spikes the ball, which was great to see. Herbert showing a little bit of emotion, maybe a little moxie in this game. I don't know. But that was just like the cherry on top. It seemed like they were kind of rubbing it in.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, everything was working, though. Everything was working beautifully. And when you're able to pull off a trick play, especially when you're the Chargers, we were talking about before this game or before we started recording here, that the Chargers don't have the best track record with the trick plays. They never really seem to convert those. But this one was
still thinking about that hook and ladder from last year against the Panthers with Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler, the trick play that got away.
Yeah, that one, come on.
No,
I mean, just make a better pitch, and it's an absolute walk-off touchdown. But this one, they execute perfectly. Keenan Allen throws a perfect strike to Justin Herbert in the end zone for the 2-point conversion. And at this point in time, Daniel, everything is going the Chargers' way.
It was full-on blowout mode. And, the thing is the Chargers. So, you can't celebrate too early.
Especially that early. Yeah.
Still the first half, right? You have to see the Chargers taking at least a 24-point lead into the fourth quarter to really feel ever good about any Chargers game. And that's just the Chargers, whether it's, new coaching staff. This is the new team. They've showed that in a lot of ways, including today. But if you're Chargers fans, you don't feel good about it. So the Bengals come back on their next drive and they respond, right? 6 plays, 75 yards for a touchdown. It makes it 24-6 after they miss a PAT. Joe Burrow hits T. Higgins for a 29-yard touchdown over Nazir Adderley and Michael Davis. That was a tough play. I mean, he easily scored on a floated ball that was really, just two guys not in great position in Adderley and Michael Davis, and he scores the touchdown. And they're right back in it, less than 3-minute drive. At least they put them points on the board. So you knew they weren't going away that quickly. Charged on their next drive, did something that always allows teams back into games, right? Turning the football over. And this time, it was a funny moment because you want to be excited about part of it, but it was a very, very bad play. And it's because Austin Eckler ends up fumbling on a really, really close play. I mean, I think it could have gone either way. They called it a fumble. It stands as a fumble. I thought there was an angle where the ball moved. He kind of seemed like he repossessed it again and then knee hit the ground. Then the ball pops loose. Either way, it was close. It ends up going back the other way for the Bengals, and they end up returning it 61 yards on that. But they end up going all the way back. But Justin Herbert, David, makes a huge tackle. So it was like I sitting next to my fiance on the couch and she's like, "Oh my God, Justin Herbert." And I was like cheering. I was like, "No, that's a bad play. Not good." They fumbled it. You can't be excited about that. But he smoked that dude. Yeah. But the Bengals were creeping back into things because they end up scoring a touchdown after that. And just like that, it's 24-13, right? And it's not going to be an easy game. You can know it right there. But that Justin Herbert tackle, though, pretty nice.
Well, it's like, does he play defense? I mean, I know some people were like, can they switch him over to linebacker? I mean, in all seriousness, yes, it was a beautiful tackle, and obviously it did save a touchdown. But whenever you see your 6'6" quarterback go out and do something like that, you know he has the size, but you're like, I don't know if I want you to do that, Justin. We would really prefer you to stay healthy, but. He saves a touchdown there. Obviously, it doesn't matter because they go in and score a touchdown on the next play. But points off of turnovers was also a big theme in this game. Points off of turnovers for the Chargers and for the Bengals. Fortunately, the Chargers just got more points than the Bengals did. But at this point in time, you're like, oh God, I mean, that fear was starting to creep into the back of your neck.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just the Chargers having a chance right there to really keep their foot on the gas pedal, even though they had scored on every drive leading, or, they had scored touchdown. 24 points is a lot for a half anytime. So it's not like they weren't scoring at all. They didn't have a super prolonged stretch, but they didn't end the half the way they would want to, because you want to keep all the momentum on your side. And the Bengals are going to get the ball at halftime. And then you kind of fizzle out in the first half and give the Bengals a chance to get back into things in the second half. But Joe Burrow ends up running it in from 6 yards out to make it 24-13 on that play after the fumble. But that's hard to even blame all that on the defense, because, the Bengals get the ball on the Chargers' 19-yard line. Turnovers giving them a great field position to go for that one. And then the Chargers have a great chance to score again. It seems like they could have stole some momentum back on the last drive of the half, but it ends up being an interception. Justin Herbert tries to throw it to Josh Palmer, a deep ball. It gets intercepted on a play where, in my opinion, it looked like defensive pass interference. It looked like the DB got home early, right, and then ends up coming down with it in a weird play. But I liked the fact that they were still going for it deep. There was no conservative play right there. Justin Herbert made a great throw to Josh Palmer, who should have, had a chance to catch it, but got interfered with. So it's hard to really blame anyone. But that gets returned. Luckily, the Bengals don't end up scoring going into half, but they were in it. They were in the game again. The Chargers had a chance to kind of make it a laugher going into halftime, where it's like, okay, you can kind of coast to a victory, even though we know that's not true because it's Chargers, but it could have felt like that. And still, they end up still trickling, kind of just fading going into halftime. But the nice thing is, David, is that the Chargers would respond in the second half after getting on the brink of blowing a 24-point lead. So we're going to get into all the biggest plays in the game-changing play of the game in the second half coming up after this. But first, I need to tell you guys about the best protein bar on the planet. And of course, I'm talking to you about Built Bars. The holiday season, grab the Built Bar, grab the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, even better than a candy bar. Built Bar is filled with so much holiday goodness, rich with decadent flavor, covered in chocolate, but amazingly low in calories, sugar, net carbs, and fat, while high in protein. Built Bars are my favorite protein bar. There's so many great flavors to choose from. Always so many limited time flavors, and those are where you're getting a lot of the best ones. But the classics are where I go. The cookies and cream, peanut butter brownie, those are my go-tos. But this holiday season, make sure you guys are getting the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, because people are so passionate about their favorite flavor, they'll fight for it, and things could get out of hand like it does often at the Locked On Podcast Network in the group chats over these Built Bars. So if you guys want to try some bars, they have some great ones out right now. You guys can dip your bar into a piping hot cup of hot chocolate. You can guys get some marshmallow treats like the new Built Bar Puffs that are out. We just got a new box of those. Those are absolutely delicious. I definitely love those. Always getting great new flavors at BuiltBar.com. So get something great that tastes good and also still fits on your diet, because that's really, really hard to find. And you can do it with Built Bar. So make sure to go to Built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15. You guys can even save some money. Get 15% off your order with the promo code LOCKED15. All caps, one word, at Built.com. All right, I also need to tell you guys about the official betting sponsor of the Locked On Chargers podcast, and that's BetOnline.ag. If you guys have been on with BetOnline, you guys have probably had some crazy weekends recently. A lot of great things to bet on. We just had championship weekend in college football, and now we have the playoff and bowl season coming up, and the best place to bet any professional in college football is at BetOnline.ag. They have the best odds, lines, and props, and you can even make your own props, play your props for games. There's so many great things to bet on at BetOnline.ag, and there's so many things to bet on. We're really spoiled in a time right now. A giant UFC fight this weekend coming up. I know I'm definitely going to be getting some action on that. Plus, football every weekend. The NFL has just been so wild. So many chances to win a ton of money on the NFL so far this season in a very weird year. So from football, basketball, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers they have available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, David. Well, the Chargers in the second half got a little sloppy, right? They continued their sloppy play, I guess I should say. But they responded, and that's the whole point of this, and we'll get to that. But it didn't start off looking good. It got to a point where you felt like they were going to give it up. They had none of the momentum. The Bengals come out after halftime, get a field goal, so that didn't really do too much. But what it did do, mentally, is it cuts it to a one-possession game. Right now, after being up 24-0, now it's an 8-point game. Now the Bengals can potentially tie it if you don't score there, right? And that's the tough thing, is because then it puts more pressure on your offense. Everybody starts pressing a little bit, and I think you saw that with the Chargers in the second half. And the Bengals slowly but surely got back into things. And it really helps, again, when the Chargers have a turnover. Like, that's how you lose these games, is you turn the ball over. And the Chargers did it in the second half, and it was another fumble by Austin Eckler that set up a touchdown from Joe Mixon, right? That makes it 24-22. And it was just like, oh, brutal. It's just not, Austin Eckler and the Chargers skill position players in general have had really good luck not fumbling. I mean, they've done a really, really good job. We've seen fumbles determine the outcome of way too many Chargers games in the past, David, right? Like, they did done really good all season. And now, of course, in a span of 3 drives, you have 2 fumbles and an interception. And that, to give the ball away 3 times and still win a game is miraculous just in general in the NFL. But it's plays like that, David, that really, really hurt the team. Luckily, the Chargers were able to stop the 2-point conversion. But at this point, the Bengals had come all the way back, and you're feeling all of it as a Chargers fan.
Oh man, you go from the top of the mountain at 24-0 and feeling like you're invincible and that nothing is going to hurt and everything is going to be fantastic. And then you go to the lowest of the lows almost, with the Chargers coughing up that just commanding lead to where it's a 2-point game. And you're saying to yourself, how in God's green earth did we get here? How did this happen?
Yeah.
How did the Chargers allow this to be such a close game after taking such a commanding lead to start this game? Yeah, like I said, the hysteria, the panic, the blood pressure, everything was starting to really rise and go out of the roof. And yeah, it was full-scale panic mode at this point, at least as a fan. But the good thing is the Chargers did not panic.
Yeah, and on that, it felt like a big point on the 2-point conversion because
Oh,
the Chargers
massive.
had 17 players on the field on the first attempt from the 2-yard line, got penalized, and then the Bengals came back out, ran the ball, which you should obviously do on the 1-yard line, and you have Joe Mixon.
Especially against the Chargers.
And the Chargers get a huge stop there, right? And they're celebrating, and it's like, hey, you just gave up, 22 straight points. Maybe calm down. But it's like you could tell getting those like short yardage situations, being able to have one play to determine points and getting a stop there, I do think is a boost.
That's mono right there. That's, hey, you're going to run it up against me, and I'm going to do everything I can to stop you. And the Chargers did. And so, that's a big, big moment for them.
Especially when it's cataloged as your weakness, right? Where everybody knows what they're going to try to do against you. And that play calling is obvious. Guys came through and made big stops as they did most of the game against Joe Mixon. But in that play specifically, it didn't feel good at the time as Chargers fans, because all you're thinking about is you just gave up 22 points to, let them get right back into the game. And you're about to give the Bengals their first 24-point comeback in franchise history. But it did seem like it was a shifting moment for the Chargers defense, because after that, they basically shut out. I mean, they did shut out the Bengals from there on out. Like, as bad as it was right there, the Chargers took the Bengals' best punch. They handled it, and then they ended up sticking with this game. But it didn't feel like that right after that, because it took one play in particular that really changed the game. And it was another fumble. This time, Joe Mixon, Christian Covington gets enough. I don't even know how he ended up touching it. He as Joe Mixon is running by, it looked like he was untouched, and you could tell he wasn't bracing for any contact. Pokes the ball out. It goes right into the opening hands of Tavon Campbell, who has been, yelled at by many Chargers fans over the last few weeks. And he ends up saving this game in a lot of ways. Picks up a 61-yard touchdown, takes it all the way back, and gives the Chargers a 9 points of breathing room, basically, because it felt really, really tight up until that moment. And that seemed like it was really what really shifted the game, David, and put things back in the Chargers' momentum.
That's one of those loosen up the collar type moments right there. You're like, oh, man, thank God I got some breathing room. But, yeah, that was a very weird
blood
play.
Pressure medication.
Yeah, exactly. That was a really, really weird play because, the first couple of replays, it didn't even look like he was touched. It just looked like he just coughed up the ball. And Tavon Campbell just scoops it up and runs. And obviously, the guy is incredibly fast. He runs a 4.3. So, there's no chance anyone was going to catch him, and he scores a touchdown there. And that right there definitely was the signature momentum swing of the game back in the Chargers' favor, and they would never relinquish it.
Yeah, and it's funny because they never actually did give up the 24-point lead, right? They got as close as you could to it, the 2-point conversion to tie the game, but they never actually fully, relinquished that lead. But after that, it was nice, though, because they went out and finished things. Because, they got a touchdown there. I mean, hard to really use that as an excuse for the offense, not to have a productive second half, but it gave them some breathing room. And the Chargers later on in the game really put this game on the edge when they got another touchdown to go up by 16 on another huge drive, right? I mean, they needed it. It's still been way too close, way closer than it should, but the Chargers end up pulling away somewhat because they end up getting a lot of plays defensively on the next Bengals drive after that play by the Chargers, the fumbled return for a touchdown. Drew Tranquill gets a big sack and gets them off the field. The Chargers come back on the next drive, go 4 plays, 53 yards, get the touchdown. Jalen Guyton with another giant play on that drive. It was definitely, I mean, he's had some long touchdowns, so like he's had some good games, but that felt like kind of the icing on the cake. Like they needed that breathing room badly. Jalen Guyton gets it down to the 1 yard line after an RPO that goes for 30 plus yards.
Beautiful RPO, beautiful play call.
Yeah, and I mean, nice run after the catch. I mean, Jalen Guyton was doing it all in this game besides, being able to run the end around like we and you talked about. Everything else, he did really good. I mean, he was the Chargers wide receiver 3 and stepped up in a big way. But that was when it was like, okay, well, you had to do something offensively. You couldn't just keep coasting off those 24 points you had scored offensively up until that point. So I thought that was a big drive there, David, especially when you combine it with the fact down 16, the Bengals drive down the field, have a chance to cut it to 8 in the fourth quarter with plenty of time to get back into it. And another much maligned character, Chris Harris Jr., comes up with another giant play where he ends up intercepting Joe Burrow. Didn't look like Joe Burrow ever saw him. He goes down, makes it a touchback. And a play that's going to get forgotten is Michael Davis breaking up a really nice pass to T. Higgins in the end zone. That would have been a touchdown. He makes a nice play. One play later after a penalty, Chris Harris Jr. gets the interception. But that was where the Chargers put it away. After everything, after giving up that huge lead, it's only a 2-point lead after you led by 24. They get that touchdown on offense to make it a 16-point lead, and then you get the interception that really basically sealed the game.
Yeah, at that point in time when Chris Harris Jr. got that easy interception in the end zone, you're like, all right, now it's time to exhale and breathe a little bit because this game is, by all accounts, by all intents and purposes, over. And the Chargers would, kind of add that exclamation point, that icing on the cake, if you will, with the field goal to make it a 19-point lead. But they're able to put this game away emphatically. And, I say 19 points, Daniel, but we were talking, it didn't even seem or feel like it was a 19-point victory, right? It just so many momentum swings throughout this game. But all in all, a just gigantic victory for the Chargers to start the month of December.
Huge. 7-5 in the AFC. I mean, you literally knocked the Bengals out of the playoffs as of now, right? Just to put yourself back into it. And I think this is the big thing now is it doesn't mean as much if you don't go take care of business against the Giants next week, because that's just, winning 1 out of the 2 games where you should have always won 1 out of the 2 games, right? Win 2 in a row, get to 8-5 and really, take a stranglehold of your destiny inside of the conference and getting into the playoffs and going from there, right? Because that's what it is at this point with this flawed team. Get to the playoffs, go from there. But it's the Chiefs after the Giants. So next week will be a huge week. But for the Chargers in this game, in the AFC, to knock down another AFC opponent, to play well offensively against a good defense, to get great pressure without Joey Bosa, like these are just all things that weren't a given going into this game, and the Chargers pulled them all off. And I can't wait to get more in depth tomorrow with some more guys who deserve to be shouted out, right? I mean, Jalen Guyton deserves a lot of credit. I mean, there's a lot of guys who made a lot of big plays.
Deserves some credit. Kaiser White had a great game. I mean, there's so many people to get into, and I can't wait to get into it tomorrow.
Yeah, so tomorrow we'll definitely get into what went right, what went wrong in this one, since it doesn't have to be a double what went wrong segment. That's always a great thing. But the Chargers show that they contend, right? They show that they're contenders to be a playoff team, and they show that they probably aren't a team that you want to play once you get there, just because on any given Sunday, the Chargers have a chance to take you down. The problem is they've just been so inconsistent, you don't know which version is going to show up. But I think you saw what the Chargers looked like today. When they're peaking, when they're clicking on all, firing on all cylinders, that's how good they can look. And it's a 24-0 lead. A little bit sprinkle of luck in there. But Justin Herbert wins his first matchup against Joe Burrow. It's something we'll talk about more tomorrow. That's really cool. 2 guys who are always going to be compared together. I thought Justin Herbert was much better. And I give Joe Burrow a lot of credit, too, for dealing with that banged up offensive line. That dude got smoked on Sunday. That dude got beat up by the Chargers, and it was great to see the Chargers getting that much pressure.
Like a victory brisket?
Yeah, I mean, that's smoked like a victory brisket was Joe Burrow. Smoked like a post-game victory cigar was Joe Burrow in this game
Boom.
by the Chargers. But it was great to see,
Mic drop.
the only kind of time we had seen that is Justin Herbert going up against, Tua Tagovailoa, and that was it. They lost behind a really, really good Miami Dolphins defensive performance. Justin Herbert went up against Joe Burrow, and it's not, wins are not a quarterback stat, but it was nice to see Justin Herbert looking like the better quarterback in this game. Justin Herbert taking the offense on his back, using his giant golden arm to go get the Chargers a win, and the defense, most importantly, because that's the place where this team can really improve the most, really getting a win for this team. And the defense, I think, did that on Sunday for the Chargers against a good Bengals offense with a lot of really, really good players. But we'll be back with you guys tomorrow to keep getting into that and talk about the greatest things and some of the things the Chargers need to work on from this game. But until then, make sure if you haven't already, to check out the new Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and subscribe there. If you guys are watching on here now, make sure to go hit that subscribe button, and you can follow wherever you get your podcast from, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the TuneIn app, the new Odyssey app, or wherever you guys want to find the show. You can also find it every day on all of our social media. You can find us on Twitter at LockedOnLAC, me on Twitter at Dan Talk Sports, and David Drogemeyer on Twitter at DroTalkSD. We also have our new at Locked On Chargers Instagram page and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page. If you guys want to get in on the show and get in on the action and give your reactions to us from this game, if you guys want to keep it short and get on the show, the number is 323-524-7924, and we try to get every Chargers voicemail player on the show. But what a crucial, pivotal win for the Chargers in the AFC, knocking down a great opponent and really improving their chances of making the playoffs in 2021. You love to see it. We'll be back with you guys tomorrow to talk more about it. But until then, take it easy and go Bolts.